Question 936. The comparison method of appraisal would be least useful in A very slow real estate market, B. Neighborhood with comparables located in another neighborhood, C. Neighborhood with changing demographics, D. Neighborhood with very similar comparables. Correct answer is a very slow real estate market. The sales comparison approach relies heavily on finding comparable properties. These are properties that are similar to the subject property in terms of size, age, condition, location, and features. Very slow real estate market would be the most challenging situation for the sales comparison approach. In a slow market, there may be very few recent comparable sales. This makes it difficult to find properties that accurately reflect current market conditions. A slow market can indicate shifts in market dynamics, such as declining demand or an oversupply of inventory. These market changes can be difficult to accurately reflect in the appraisal, making it harder to rely on older sales data. Question 937. Which of the following may not be a blanket encumbrance as it applies to subdivisions? A deed of trust, B. Tax lien, C. Mechanics lien, D. All of the above. Correct answer is B. Tax lien. Tax liens are typically not considered blanket encumbrances on subdivisions. Tax liens are typically specific to individual properties. Property taxes are assessed and levied on individual parcels of land. A blanket encumbrance is a lien or other claim that affects multiple properties within a subdivision. Some of examples of blanket encumbrances: blanket mortgage, a single mortgage that covers all the lots in a subdivision. Mechanics lien filed against the entire subdivision, if a contractor is not paid for work done on the common areas of the subdivision. They may file a mechanics lien against all the lots. Judgment lien. If a court judgment is issued against the developer of the subdivision, it may create a blanket lien against all the properties within the subdivision. Key takeaway: blanket encumbrances can complicate the sale or development of individual lots within a subdivision. They affect multiple properties simultaneously. Question 938. All leases include an implied covenant of quiet enjoyment and possession. This covenant refers to a tenant's possession clear of disturbance from the landlord or anyone else with paramount title, b. Landlord's right to make the tenant quiet down any loud disturbances, c. Landlord's right of possession free from judgment liens, d. Tenant's protection from liability for damages done to adjoining properties. Correct answer is a tenant's possession clear of disturbance from the landlord or anyone else with paramount title. It means that the landlord promises not to interfere with the tenant's use and enjoyment of the leased premises. This covenant further safeguards the tenant from disturbances by third parties. These third parties would hold a legal claim to the property superior to the landlord's, known as paramount title. Examples include issues with a prior owner or actions by a foreclosing lender. It does not relate to noise complaints, the landlord's title clarity from liens, or the tenant's liability to neighbors. Question 939. John and Cheryl each own single-family houses. John currently lives in his house, while Cheryl rents hers to a tenant. John and Cheryl trade houses, with each one planning to rent out the new properties to generate income, which means A. Cheryl can negotiate a tax-free exchange, B. John can negotiate a tax-free exchange, C. Both John and Cheryl can negotiate tax-free exchanges, D. Neither party can negotiate a tax-free exchange. Correct answer is A. Cheryl can negotiate a tax-free exchange. 1031 exchanges allow investors to defer capital gains taxes when they sell one investment property and reinvest the proceeds into another, like-kind, property. This exchange must follow strict IRS rules and deadlines. Since Cheryl's original home was a rental property, generating income, it qualifies as an investment property. By exchanging it for another rental property, She may be able to defer capital gains taxes through a 1031 exchange. John, on the other hand, cannot utilize a 1031 exchange because his original home was his primary residence and not an investment property. 1031 exchanges are a tax-advantaged strategy for investors, but they do not apply to the exchange of personal residences. Question 940. The zoning symbol commonly used for duplexes in California is A. R2, B. RDCD1, D. DX. Correct answer is A. R2. While there is no universal symbol for zoning in California, most municipalities in the state use these. R1 for single-family dwellings, R2 for duplexes, R3 for multiple family dwellings, C for commercial, and A for agriculture. While some cities might use variations like road, restricted density, or have specific overlay zones, R2 inches is the most widely recognized and common zoning designation specifically for duplexes. Question 941. When the relationship between the real estate broker and seller results in an exclusive agency, then the listing agreement A must contain a specified termination date, B does not have to include a property description, C must prohibit the representation of any other seller by the broker during the length of its term, D must not contain a specified termination date. Correct answer is A must contain a specified termination date. Exclusive agency listing. This type of listing agreement grants a specific real estate broker the exclusive right to represent the seller in finding a buyer for the property. A crucial element of any valid contract, including an exclusive agency listing agreement, is a clearly defined termination date. This date outlines when the agreement expires, preventing indefinite obligations for either party. Question 942. Brokers are required by the real estate law to retain copies for their files of all instruments, agreements, and other transactional documents for 3 years. The 3-year period for a deposit receipt runs from the date A. the offer is made, B. of the recording of, or closing of, the transaction, C. the offer is accepted, D. escrow closes. Correct answer is B. of the recording of, or closing of, the transaction. In California, real estate brokers are legally obligated to keep copies of specific transactional documents, includes items like deposit receipts. These records must be retained for a minimum period of 3 years. The 3-year retention period for documents like deposit receipts officially starts on the closing date of the transaction. If the deal doesn't close, the period begins from the date of the listing agreement. Should there be no listing agreement, it starts from the date of the buyer's offer. Closing of the transaction is typically synonymous with the close of escrow and the recording of the deed. These events signify the completion of the real estate deal, when all funds have been disbursed and title has been transferred and made public. Question 943. The holder of a life estate. A is obligated to pay taxes on the property, B can mortgage the property, C can lease the property, D all of the above. Correct answer is D all of the above. The holder of a life estate, also known as a life tenant, has significant rights and obligations concerning the property during their lifetime. A life tenant typically handles the property's general financial upkeep. This includes paying ordinary property taxes and maintenance expenses. They are also responsible for interest on any existing debts tied to the property, all to prevent its forfeiture. A life tenant can mortgage their interest in the property. However, the mortgage would only be valid for the duration of the life estate. It would terminate upon the death of the life tenant. A life tenant can lease the property to others. Just like a mortgage, any lease granted by a life tenant is limited. Its validity extends only for the duration of their life estate. The lease automatically ends upon the life tenant's death, even if its stated term hasn't expired. Question 944. A declared homestead may be claimed for a real property dwelling by anyone who A. Owns an interest in the dwelling and resides in it, B. Has tendered a good faith deposit for the acquisition of the dwelling, C. Is married to a person who owns an interest in the dwelling and resides in it, D. Either A or C. Correct answer is D. Either A or C. A declared homestead is a legal protection for a homeowner's equity in their principal residence, safeguarding it from certain creditors. To claim a declared homestead for a real property dwelling, the claimant must meet specific criteria. 1. The property must be the claimant's principal dwelling, where they primarily reside. 2. The claimant must have an ownership interest in the dwelling. Let's examine the options. A. Owns an interest in the dwelling and resides in it. This is a direct and clear qualification. If you own the home and live in it, you can declare a homestead. Question 945. The following are examples of native California foliage, except A. Conifers, B. Hollies, C. Deciduous, D. Expansive. Correct answer is D. Expansive. Conifers are a large group of woody plants that produce cones and typically have needle-like or scale-like leaves. Hollies are a genus of evergreen shrubs and trees known for their distinctive foliage and bright berries, often used for Christmas decorations. Deciduous trees are those that lose their leaves seasonally. Many native California trees, such as oaks and maples, are deciduous. Expansive does not describe a type of plant or vegetation.